We have been introduced to perturbation theory and we have discussed why I think this cat represents perturbation theory nicely. Today we will complete our discussion, we will get an expression for the delta E, the first order correction to energy, and we will do a very simple example of an application of perturbation theory. Then for the next few modules we are going to talk about applications in progressively more chemistry related systems. But before we do that, let us quickly recap what we have discussed already. We have said that the scope of perturbation theory is that it works when the deviation from the unperturbed system is very small. We can write the Hamiltonian of the perturbed system as 0th order Hamiltonian plus a first order correction. We can write the wave function as 0th order wave function plus first order correction delta C, and we can write E as 0th order energy plus first order correction to energy delta E. Before going further, it may make sense to say that this expression is of course incomplete. I might want to invoke second order, third order perturbations. Sometimes it might be necessary. In the next module we are going to discuss a case where first order perturbation with a certain kind of expression of a quantity just does not work. You either have to change that quantity or you have to invoke second order perturbation. Okay. So, it is not necessary that first order correction is be all and end all of it, but for most of our purposes we are going to stick to first order correction. Alright. Then what we did is we set up Schrodinger equation in terms of H hat, psi and E, this is what it is, and since delta psi and delta E are small changes, we figured that this H1 hat, the first order correction to Hamiltonian operating on delta psi and delta E multiplied by delta psi. Remember it is an operator, so it cannot be multiplied by delta psi, it is operating on delta psi. So, these two are products of small quantities, so they are 0. We also said that H0th operating on psi 0th is the same as E 0th multiplied by psi 0th, because that is your Schrodinger equation for the unperturbed system. So, they cancel each other, we are left with H 0th minus E 0th operating on delta psi plus first order correction to Hamiltonian operating on psi 0th is equal to delta E multiplied by the unperturbed wave function. Here we said that let us not forget that this unperturbed energy subtracted from the unperturbed Hamiltonian is in itself an operator. In this case it is operating on delta psi. The problem with that is that we do not know what happens when it operates on delta psi. We perfectly know what happens when it operates on 0th order wave function, right, because H 0th is equal to E 0th multiplied by psi 0th. So, H 0th minus E 0th operating on psi 0th is equal to 0. So, if somehow we can replace delta psi by psi 0th, then we know how to go about this. That is what we are essentially trying to do. So, to do that, first of all we will multiply by psi 0th star and integrate over all space. This is the expression we get. On the right hand side we get delta E multiplied by the integral of the 0th order wave function, unperturbed wave function and its complex conjugate. This integral of course is equal to 1. So, right hand side gets cleaned up, we get only delta E, and the left hand side we are now trying to find out what would be this expression here. And to do that, this is where we have got so far. We have remembered that quantum mechanical operators must necessarily have real eigenvalues, because the one of the central themes of quantum mechanics is that the eigenvalues of quantum mechanical operators are the values of the observables these operators stand for. So, you cannot have a physical observable with an imaginary value. If you ask me what is the position and I say the position is root 5 into I, What does that mean? It means it is not in real space. Okay? So, that cannot be the case. If I ask what is the momentum and you say 0.32 multiplied by omega or 0.32 minus 5.6 I. What kind of momentum is that? Momentum, position, these have to be real quantities. So, eigenvalues must be real for quantum mechanical operators. Using this, we have got this expression here, integral f star a hat f d tau is equal to integral f multiplied by a hat f star d tau. So, what we are saying is, what we are trying to do is we are trying to interchange the bases. Here at least we have been able to interchange this complex conjugate and a function by itself. Okay. Left multiplication here is by complex conjugate, left multiplication here is by the actual function. But our job is not done, because here the two functions are different. It is something like integral f star a hat g d tau. Here we have integral f star a hat f d tau. So, we have to somehow bring in a g here, then we know what this is going to be, and that is what we will proceed to do from here. Okay. So, since we need a g, let us simply write this same expression in terms of g without any loss of generality. I am talking about a function. How does it matter if you call it f or if you call it g or if you call it phi or whatever you want to call it. A rose called by any other name smells just as sweet. So, we write this, but then there is a reason why we have written it. It is not just we want to bring in a different function here. And to do that, what we do is we take a linear combination of f and g, and we take psi is equal to C1 multiplied by f plus C2 multiplied by g. Why? Because we want an integral f star a hat g d tau. Okay. This linear combination will enable us to do exactly that. We are going to jump steps there because it is lengthy. If you want, you can do it yourself. You will not have to remember anything. As long as we understand the logic, we are good. Okay. So, now see, this f is any general function, right. So, instead of f I might as well write psi. So, I can write integral psi star a hat psi d tau. Alright, let me write what happens when I take psi and put it here in this equation. I get integral psi star a hat psi d tau is equal to integral psi a hat psi, we take complex conjugate of the whole thing d tau. It is as simple as that. But what is psi? Psi is a linear combination of f and g. Yeah. So, what I do is I just write that, instead of this I will write integral C1f plus C2g star a hat operating on C1f plus C2g d tau is equal to integral C1f plus C2g multiplied by a hat operating on C1f plus C2g full star d tau. Right, d tau. Okay. And then what we do is we expand this, that is the step that I want to skip. It is not all that difficult also, because a hat operating on this linear sum, what will it be? It will be C1 multiplied by a hat f star, a hat f plus C2 multiplied by a hat g. It is as simple as that, linear operators, is not it? And then you just open this up. So, this way you just do it using the values of f and g, and you put in these expressions also, it is a little tedious but not impossible to come to this expression. C1 star C2 multiplied by integral of f star a hat g minus g into a star f star d tau is equal to C1 C2 star multiplied by integral f a hat star g star minus g star a hat f integrated over all space. Okay. Now see, we are almost there. Look at this integral, instead of psi 0 I will write f, instead of delta psi I will write g, integral f star a hat g, f star a hat g. So, we are getting to the functional form that we require. But before we get there, it is important to now develop an understanding of the situation, and that is where we are going to embark upon, or where we are going to reach a very important property of quantum mechanical operators. Let us see. See, first of all, this left hand side here is the complex conjugate of the right hand side, is not it? See, C1 star C1, C2 C2 star, f star a hat g, f a hat star g star, g a hat star f star, g star a hat f. So, right hand side and left hand side are complex conjugates of each other, point number 1. Point number 2 is, well, it is an equation. So, of course, LHS equal to RHS. So, what are we saying here? We are saying that LHS and RHS are complex conjugates of themselves. Okay. That is going to happen only when LHS and RHS are real, otherwise it is impossible. Something similar also comes when you talk about what are called Hermitian matrices, matrix algebra. So, LHS and RHS have to be real, it is as simple as that. Now see, the C1 star C1 and C2, they are perfectly arbitrary constants. I have not told you that this is 5 and this is 3i or other way around or anything. So, naturally since these are arbitrary complex quantities, we should expect that C1 star C2 in the general case is going to be complex, yeah, because we are multiplying two complex numbers. Either C1 star and C2 both have to be real, or C2 has to be the complex conjugate of C1 star, then only this C1 star C2, C1 C2 star, these are going to be real, but that is not the case. That would be a very, very specific case. We have written a general expression. So, these are arbitrary complex quantities, these are complex quantities. So, what about the rest? Remember, left hand side, let us work with the left hand side first. Left hand side is real. Left hand side is made up of two factors. The first one is C1 star C2, second one is this f star integral, second one is the integral. Similarly, right hand side is C1 C2 star multiplied by another integral. Now, each is real. In the left hand side, focusing there, C1 star C2 we said in the general case has to be complex, which means that the integral either has to be its complex conjugate, because the product of the integral and C1 star C2 is real. So, either the integral has to be complex conjugate of C1 star C2, but if that is the case, once again generality is lost, that is a specific case. Okay. We do not want to talk about specific cases, we want to see if there is something that is absolutely general. Similarly, on the right hand side also the same thing will happen. So, what is the only other situation in which we have a complex number multiplied by a quantity and the product is real, unless the second quantity is a complex conjugate of the complex number? The only other option you have is that the second quantity is 0. Anything multiplied by 0 is 0, provided it is not 0, 1 by 0, anything real or imaginary does not matter, multiply by 0 you are going to get 0. So, the general solution is that these integrals on the two sides must be equal to 0, alright. Integral f star a hat g minus g a hat star f star d tau must be equal to 0. Similarly, integral f multiplied by a hat star g star minus g star a hat f d tau is also equal to 0. Well, there are too many f's and g's and stars here. Please do not get scared, please do not get confused. Stop the video here if you have not understood, replay as many times as you need and it will sink in. It will sink in faster if you do it by yourself. So, this is something that we are saying in almost every module. Please make sure that in addition to hearing what I am saying, you write down the same thing so that you practice. Okay. So, this is 0. So, let us clean up things a little bit, and before doing that, this is actually the definition of Hermitian operators. Okay. An operator that satisfies this condition, that this integral is 0, is called a Hermitian operator, and Hermitian operators, as we see, have real eigenvalues. This is the definition. Do not say that Hermitian operators definition is that they have real eigenvalues, that is a corollary. This is really the definition. We have sort of back calculated starting from real eigenfunctions. We have shown that the operator has to be Hermitian, this integral has to be equal to 0. Okay. So, let us clean up things now and write this integral f star a hat g minus g multiplied by a hat star f star d tau equal to 0. Okay. So, what we can do is we can expand the left hand side and get 2 terms, and since one has minus sign we can take it to the right hand side. That way we get integral f star a hat g d tau is equal to g multiplied by a hat star f star d tau, and that is a happy situation. Why? Because look at this psi 0 star, let us say that is f, h0th minus e0th, that is your, let us say, a hat, and this is g. The problem we have here is that g, that is delta psi, is not an eigenfunction of h0th minus e0th, but psi 0th is an eigenfunction. So, if we can somehow take this delta 0 here and bring this psi 0 here, then that is a happy situation. I mean, it is okay if we bring psi 0 star also, but that will not happen. Okay. And this equation is what allows me to do that. I have an operator operating on a function left multiplied by another function. What it says is that within the integral sign you can just interchange the two functions, right. Instead of f star, now f star will come here, g will go there. So, this is what we get. So, using this expression we get delta psi star multiplied by h0th minus e0. Now, h0 complex is okay, e0 complex, e0th complex is e0th complex, h0th complex does not make a difference. So, h0th minus e0th operating on psi 0 d tau. So, this expression here gets transformed, this integral here gets transformed to another integral where we have this problematic delta psi star factor multiplying an operator operating on its wave function, on its eigenfunction. Now tell me, what is the eigenvalue of this h0th minus e0th operator for psi 0th? I can find eigenvalue and I can do it fairly easily. Remember Schrodinger equation for the unperturbed system, unperturbed Hamiltonian operating on unperturbed wave function gives us energy of the unperturbed system multiplied by unperturbed wave function. Okay. So, let us bring this to the left hand side, we get h hat 0th psi 0th minus e 0th psi 0th equal to 0, or we get, I can write like this, h hat 0th minus e 0th, that is the operator we are working with, operating on psi 0th is equal to 0. Okay. So, first thing we have done is we have transformed this integral to another one in which we have h zeroth minus E zeroth operating on psi zeroth, and we have found that this H zeroth minus E zeroth operating on psi zeroth is 0. So, inside the integral we have delta psi zeroth multiplied by 0 integrated over all space. What will it be? Definitely it is going to be 0. Okay. So, now after all this exercise we are happy to see that even this problematic term is actually 0. You do not have to worry about it. So, finally we get an expression for the first order correction to energy, and that expression is delta E equals integral unperturbed wave function multiplied by the first order correction term to Hamiltonian operating on the unperturbed wave function itself integrated over all space. Okay. Another way of writing it in Dirac notation that is often done, as we have discussed a little bit, is we can write this same thing as psi zeroth H hat H hat psi zeroth integrated over all space, this is your delta E. I think we are now familiar with this expression, there should be no problem. So, we have got an expression for the first order correction to energy. Now, to conclude our discussion, let us think of applications of this simple perturbation theory in some systems. Now, before that, just for the record, this is called time independent perturbation theory, because we are working with time independent wave functions. We are not working with time dependent wave functions. Time dependent because we are working with stationary states here, right. When we work with when we talk about spectroscopy, at that time it will be imperative that we use time dependent perturbation theory. But if you understand time independent perturbation theory, time dependent perturbation theory is actually child's play, not difficult at all. So, we are going to see its application. Today we are going to talk about this kind of a system, a particle in a box with a slanting bottom, and in the next module we are going to discuss what is called an anharmonic oscillator, and that is where we will see what kind of problems we face if we do not define our perturbation properly, or if we try to stop at too low level of correction. So, let us start. So, what we are doing is we want to talk about particle in a box with a slanting bottom, which means a particle in a box with an x dependent potential. Okay. So, to start with, what will be the unperturbed system? Our good old particle in a box where V equal to 0 for all values of x, V equal, well, all values of x within 0 and a, where 0 and a are the limits of the box, and outside it is infinity. So, for such a system, for a particle in a box with infinite height of the walls, the wave function as we have discussed is root over 2 by a sin n pi x divided by a, and energy is n square h square divided by 8 m a square, simple. Now, we want to bring in the perturbation to the system to arrive at our box with a slanting bottom. So, this is the perturbation we bring. Okay. So, let us say at x equal to a, the perturbation potential is V. Remember, what we are trying to do is we are trying to get an expression for the first order correction to the energy brought in by this slanting bottom. To do that, we will need to know what the first order correction to Hamiltonian is. First order correction to Hamiltonian will be, of course, the potential energy. What is the potential energy? It is equal to 0 for x equal to 0. It is equal to capital V, let us say, for x equal to a. So, what you have here is a straight line going through the origin. So, very simple, right. H first order for any value of x is going to be x divided by a multiplied by V. It is quite simple, not difficult at all. Okay. X divided by A multiplied by V, V is the value at A. So, we take this expression for the first order correction to Hamiltonian and we plug it into the expression for delta E. This is what we get, and of course we have to use the expression for psi 0th as well. So, delta E turns out to be integral 0 to A psi 0th star, which is the same as psi 0th, because psi 0th is a real wave function multiplied by x into V divided by A multiplied by psi 0th integrated over all values of x from 0 to A, simple as that. Now here this V is a constant, is not it? A is also a constant. So V and A can come outside the integral, and what do we get here? Psi 0th is root over 2 by A sin n pi x by A, and there are 2 of them. So I get 2 by A from there as well. So what comes outside the integral is 2 by A multiplied by V by A, something like that. So 2 V divided by A square, that comes out, and inside you are left with integral 0 to A x into sine square n pi x by A dx. Of course you can work this out yourself, it is an integration, not a very difficult one, but it is a standard integral, we know the solutions already. So we are going to just put the value from the compendium. The value of the standard integral turns out to be A square by 4. So the value for delta E that we have is 2V divided by A square multiplied by A square by 4, that turns out to be V by 2. So you see how simply, how easily we have been able to find out the value for the first order correction to energy of the system even without working out what the wave function actually is. This is the beauty of approximation methods. You do not have to know the wave function to get the energy. You can get the energy first, then worry about the wave function. So let me just write this. Remember, energy in particle in a box is quantized. We said earlier that zeroth order energy for nth level is n square h square by 8 ms square. Now in the perturbed system you need this correction term of V by 2. So this is the expression for the energy of the nth energy level, En is equal to n square h square by 8 ms square plus V by 2. So what has happened to the energy level of particle in a box because of this slanting thing? What has happened is that every energy level has simply got offset by V by 2. What is V? V is the perturbation potential at x equal to A. So this energy here is not x dependent, okay. Potential energy is x dependent, fine, energy is not. It would have been a little unhappy situation if it was, okay, but it is not. So it is a good thing that we see that n square h square by 8 ms square plus V by 2, this is what we get. Now see, V would better be small, right, and you can think of very large values of V. What about n square h square by 8 ms square? We have talked about what kind of energies they can be. If V is very large, then of course this treatment is not even valid, yeah, because that delta E into delta psi, that you cannot equate to 0 anymore if delta E is large. So you have to work with V's that are small enough. If V itself is close to infinity, of course this treatment is not valid, but otherwise it is. And we see an elegant and simple example of application of time independent perturbation theory to a simple model system. Next module we go on and discuss application of the same time independent perturbation theory to your anharmonic oscillator. Remember harmonic oscillator, equispaced energy levels and so on and so forth. We will discuss why it cannot really be the case for say diatomic molecules, and it has to be a it has to look different. So you have to bring in anharmonicity. We are going to bring in anharmonicity as a perturbation, and we will get a correction term to the energy. While we do that, we will come upon something interesting. After anharmonic oscillator, we want to see how one can use perturbation theory to talk about helium atom. Remember, we were talking about helium atom 2 modules ago. From there we have taken a sort of a break and we are learning perturbation theory only because we can go back, we have to go back to the same system and use it. This is not a digression. We are developing the tool so that we can use it in our atomic system. Please do not lose the focus of what we really want to do after this. But to get there we must learn the workings of the theory, and the best way of learning it is to make the theory work on model systems, and while doing that we also get some interesting results that are relevant to molecules also, right. Even this kind of a slanting box can be there in conjugated molecules in which all atoms are not carbon, and anharmonic oscillators are ubiquitous in molecular vibrators. Okay. So, that is the reason why we are doing this, but do not forget that all this is really a part of our discussion of many electron atoms, to understand which we are going to use this perturbation theory.